We are live, show number 11, and we're tackling some back and forth words that are happening between Donald Trump and Jerome Powell. We're going to walk through some memes that we're going to react to, my favorite memes of the week. That's always fun. We're going to laugh a little bit together, but ultimately want to react to everything that's going on in the economic housing space. Hi, my name is Zachary Faust. If you don't know me, I'm covering the economy and everything going on in the political sphere from the perspective of a normal working class American. Been doing this for 8.5 years, working in real estate, and there is some drama that is unfolding. I got Sean in the background. Wave hi, Sean, in the beautiful Sublime shirt. Sean, why don't we go ahead and roll some of these reactionary clips? We'll pull the screen up because we have some articles that we're going to touch on here from the beginning. Donald Trump has threatened to fire Jerome Powell. In this article, we see Trump has drafted a letter to fire Fed chair. He has asked Republicans if he should send it. The president waved a copy of a draft letter firing Jerome H. Powell at a meeting in the Oval Office with House Republicans, and it remains to be seen whether he will follow through with this threat. Let's go on to the next page. We got a couple videos, too, from that meeting that we'll show. But this is the drama right now, and it's around this building. So this is the actual central bank in Washington, D.C., that is going into a renovation phase. And if you've ever flipped a house before, you've ever taken over an office space and you had to upgrade it a bit to get it up to snuff, you know just as much as anybody that these costs, they pile up. They pile up. Before you know it, you're going to Lowe's and Home Depot and Ace, and you got to get this from there and that from there. And because you got this piece, you also need this piece ordered on Amazon, and this is only compatible with this over here. And now the paint looks weird with the decor and all that. And Jerome Powell and the central bank are going through the same thing. And right now, that bill is at $2.45 billion. So there's a bit of controversy as to why there is a 10-digit figure for the renovation of the Federal Reserve. You can see a picture of it right here with the, what is that? Is that a spider? What is that out in front of it? It's one of the employees in their employee covered vehicles. They get their gas covered by the Federal Reserve and everything. But it's only got 3 wheels. So less expense on getting those tires rotated. Let's scroll down a little bit. Federal Reserve Jerome Powell has asked the Central Bank Inspector General to review its $2.5 billion headquarter renovation project, which has become a key focus of Trump administration's attacks, a source tells Axios. Why it matters. The Trump administration is using the Fed's expensive overhaul of 2 historic buildings on the National Mall as a lever to try to force out Powell, who has rebuffed the president's demands to cut interest rates. Going down, Powell has asked Fed Inspector General Michael Horowitz to review the cost of the building and any other related matters as to see basically whether or not this is fraud. Now, just to be clear, this renovation was put in front of the board and approved back in 2021. So this isn't new. This isn't just random. They didn't just show up with construction hats and say, hey, we're putting $2.5 billion into this. This was planned out. And I think it says later on in this article, but just so we're all on the same page, this is a 2-block building. It houses, I think, 24,000 employees. Sean, can we scroll down real quick? I think it mentions some of those numbers. Maybe not in this article. No, it doesn't in this. It's a gigantic building. We're not talking about a 3-bed, 2-bath in Wisconsin. We're talking about a humongous building. Do I think $2.5 billion is a lot? Yes, but we're now looking at the drama that could lead toward Trump having some credence, some evidence toward getting Jerome Powell out of his position. Let me just tell you right now, if Jerome Powell were to get fired by Donald Trump, it would skyrocket rates. Why? If he were to put somebody in Jerome's place that wanted to cut rates, why would that raise rates? Let me tell you right now, if Donald Trump were to fire the sitting Fed chair from his position because of building renovations, only to insert someone who's going to do his bidding, it is going to send turmoil through the markets because people will no longer trust the system we have set up, which is a private central bank entity that is not commingled with by our executive branch. If executive branch fires someone from the private sector, boom, that connection is broken. We no longer have this separation of church and state, if there was, between our economy and our political status. We're going to officially make it so the president oversees the central bank because he's going to rip somebody out and place in one of his yes men. Let's bring back up the articles real quick because the next one goes deeper into it. Trump firing could lift rates. This is going to happen if Trump were to do it. And this is why I do think we need to get a CNBC free article for next time, but I don't think it's going to happen. And he was asked about this at his latest presser in the Oval Office, other Republicans around him. I want to pull that one up real fast so that we can listen to this. Now, sit tight, listen to this. Let's pull this all the way back to 0 if we could, Sean, so that we can hear the question that starts up. But this is from yesterday morning, 11:54, July 17th, a.m. Let's go ahead and play this right from the White House.
Do you have plans, or if you're back considering firing Jerome Powell, and what's your justification if you're thinking about this to do this?
Too late. He's always been too late, hence his nickname, Too Late. He should have cut interest rates a long time ago. Europe has cut them 10 times in the short period of time, and we cut them none. The only time he cut them was just before the election to try and help Kamala or Biden, whoever the hell it was, because nobody really knew. Obviously, that didn't work, but he tried to cut them for the Democrats, Kamala. And how did that work out? You'll tell me. It didn't work out too well, did it? But I think he does a terrible job. He's costing us a lot of money. And we fight through it. It's almost, the country's become so successful that it doesn't have a big impact. But it does hurt people wanting to get a mortgage. People want to buy a house. He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended it.
Pause it. Sean, bring up the other video. This is from 2017, November 2nd, 2017. Roll the clip.
There are a few decisions more important than nominating leaders of integrity and good judgment to hold trusted positions in public office. And few of those trusted positions are more important than the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Accordingly, it is my pleasure and my honor to announce my nomination of Jerome Powell to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Okay, so we clearly have a guy who's talking about my opponent, Sleepy Biden, nominated this crazy wackadoo for the Fed Reserve chair position. He kept him in. He's kept this tyranny running through our rates. He's kept people from being able to get into homes. He's kept people from being able to get new debt for a car, to be able to refi and go do that renovation to your property, to go and start that business. The fact that rates are so high are Jerome's fault. And guess who put him in office? Me. Donald Trump appointed Jerome Powell, who apparently his new nickname is Too Late. I believe Donald Trump gave him that nickname. Go figure. And now we're in a position where that very same person, Donald Trump, is accusing Biden of allowing Powell to do this, when he was the one that put him in. You see what I'm saying here? He's confused as to who appointed this man that he is blaming for being too late on rates, and he's the one that appointed him. I just want to be very clear on that. Let's roll back to some of these other clips. The next one is where we're going to get into some numbers, because when we're talking about Jerome Powell, his two mandates, if you're unfamiliar with the Federal Reserve, are to keep unemployment at bay, keep it low, keep the country employed as best as possible, and keep inflation low, or keep prices stable, is what the actual mandate, quote unquote, reads, keeping prices stable for normal everyday Americans. June, we had a report where the CPI index, which you'll see in the yellow bar, is 2.7%. So 2.7%, if you're unfamiliar with what that number means, we're going to walk through a clip I think is a really good, in a moment, not yet, indicator that shows really that the 2.7 is only a small part of the story. But let's look at this 2.7%. What this means is that since last year, this core grouping of goods and services that are core to an American lifestyle are 2.7% more expensive than they were 12 months ago, this time last year. In May, it was 2.4%. June, we just got the numbers. It's 2.7. Now, this is not a welcome sign for Jerome Powell, and we are going to be going live on July 30th. It's going to be scheduled out. You can go ahead and get a reminder for it if you want. We're going to live stream Jerome Powell's meeting on July 30th with the Fed Reserve because he's going to have some explaining to do. Because Jerome, honestly, has been calling this. He said many times in April and May and in June that he believes inflation is going to tick back up due to tariffs. And, well, he was kind of right because we did see inflation tick back up. Now, here is where I would say we need to lay our focus. Because if you look at how Yahoo Finance, which I love how they break this down in a graphic, this is all in a table, and if you're not a big numbers guy and you look at the numbers and they all just kind of flood together, you don't know what you're looking at, I love a good graphic. Because this graphic shows that not only is this 2.7% a little lower, maybe than what it actually is. Because let's look at these numbers, right? Let's see first what went down. Gasoline, down 8.3%, okay? That's a worldwide market. It's international. There's nothing we can really do, the president can really do to affect this going down. And there's nothing he's done in his executive orders or anything leading up to it that has caused this. This is international affairs. And it anchors the CPI index down quite a bit. What else went down? Airfare, hotel rooms, transportation. Your vacation's cheaper. That's cool. You can jump on a plane, go to Honolulu. It's 3.5% cheaper. The hotel's 2.5% cheaper. Come on. Your vacations, guys, they're getting so much more luxurious and recreational. Everything's getting better. Why are you complaining? Well, because let's look above that yellow line real quick. Let's look above it. Medical care up to 8%. Used vehicles, 2.8%. We got personal care, who cares about that? That's up 3.1%. Rent, 3.8. Is that 3.8? Sure is. Rental cars, restaurant meals. You want to go out for a little date night? That's more expensive. Oh, look at what's at the top here. 4% housing. Auto insurance, 6.1%. Household energy is up 7.1. Electric bills for some people have gone from $120 to $270 over the last 5 years, and that's going to continue according to this index. According to all the inflation that we have right now, it is most focused around the household. If you want to travel, get a new car, get a new pet, get a nice old bandana for your pet care. Those things aren't up too much, and your vacation got even cheaper. But if you want to just, standard everyday live, pay your utility bills, go on a date night every now and then, and live in a home, rent a home, you're going to be paying more than you paid last year. So these are the numbers that the everyday American should be worried about, and that Jerome Powell, frankly, I think I have to pray to the J.P. Morgan gods if I'm going to praise Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve that were founded in 1910's Jekyll Island meeting at his resort, but I feel I have to. Jerome called it. Jerome said inflation was more than likely going to tick back up. It has indeed ticked back up, meaning Jerome is in a position of really no wins. He's being looked at for his renovations to his big old beautiful building, big old marble towered building that needs beautiful countertops and beautiful walkways. And yes, that should be looked into. Maybe we could use that money for something else. I don't know, first-time homebuyer program. And now he's in a position where if he doesn't cut rates, an entire conservative MAGA movement is going to attack him. And if he does cut rates, well, then we can expect things like this Yahoo Finance graph that we just looked at to keep going up. But there may be some good news for housing. Let's look at this recent article that came out that said that buyers now have $16,000 in buying power. Let me read this verbatim. Home buyers gain $16,000 in purchasing power as mortgage rates dip to the lowest level in 3 months. Yes, the average 30-year mortgage rate dropped to 6.71%. An absolute steal. Buy 2 houses, why don't you? Home buyers gain $16,000 in purchasing power. I don't know about you, but if I were looking at a home that was priced at $420,000 in a neighborhood where homes used to be $250,000 pre-COVID, and I'm looking at my job making $45,000 a year, my wife making another $45,000 a year, we both have 700 credit scores, we got a little dog, we want him to have a yard, and I start looking at homes on the MLS, on Zillow, on Realtor, Redfin, and I see they're $16,000 less. You know what I'm going to do? Absolutely nothing. Not a thing, because it doesn't change the fact that the median mortgage per month is $2,600. It doesn't change the fact home prices have gone up 47% over the last 4.5 years. It doesn't change the fact that everything from paying for your insurance for the home, insurance for the car, and the utility bills for that very home you're powering are more expensive. This is a problem that keeps happening. It keeps getting swept under the rug with this little tiny, it went up 2.4%. It's up obnoxiously over the course of the last 5 years. And Jerome Powell, frankly, is trying his darndest to put a cap on this, to slow it down, to get us below 2%. We have people like Carolyn Levitt, Donald Trump himself, Mike Johnson coming out and saying, inflation's tamed. Inflation's chill, guys. Inflation's really cool. You should hang out with him. Inflation's a cool guy, cool gal. You should hang out every now and then. Get a drink with inflation. You really got a bad name toward it right now. I think if you guys just talked it out, hung out for a little bit, you get used to the higher prices. That's what they want. They want us to just be cool with the higher prices. And frankly, if you're asking me, who's talking with home buyers and sellers on a day-to-day basis, working a team here in Delaware, working with buyers and sellers on a day-to-day basis, seeing comments on videos that we post about this very scenario, there are absolutely zero people that feel they have $16,000 more in buying power, especially first-time buyers. What's the next clip we got coming up, Sean? What's the next one we got going on? Oh, yes, Redfin. Redfin. We're going to scroll this article a little bit because Redfin sent a tizzy. Don't get me away from the headline. Oh, I thought he was going to scroll past the headline. Freaked me out. Redfin sent shockwaves through the real estate professionals Instagram. Hi, that's me. And if you're not on real estate professional Instagram, let me tell you exactly what happened. May 29th, Redfin put out this article with an accompanying graph that we'll scroll down and show. The U.S. housing market has nearly 500,000 more sellers than we have buyers, the most on record, and that will likely cause home prices to fall. There are 34% more sellers in the market than buyers, and at no point in records dating back to 2013 have sellers outnumbered buyers this much. In other words, it's a buyer's market. Woo-hoo-hoo! It's time to buy housing again. You got $16,000 more in buying power. Your mortgage is only going to be $3,800 a month. Go buy 2 homes. Let's scroll down and look at this graph real quick that they're referencing. The reference here for these 500,000 more sellers and buyers is right here. If we zoom in just ever so slightly, we'll see the numbers for sellers and buyers all the way on the right. It says sellers are at, you can make the graph show only the red. Oh, nice. Look at that. We're learning here. Sean's killing it. So as of April 2025, there were 1.943669 sellers. And buyers, we had in the blue, 1.453 million. So there's a $500,000 or 500,000 person, I should say, gap. Let's break this down really quickly. Why do we think this number 1.9 million is going up? Do we think it's because people are getting tired of their mortgage? They're tired of paying $1,200 a month. They're tired of their 3% interest rate. I'm just done with this. I want to get rid of it. I don't like it anymore. Do we think that investors who are currently renting their home for an obnoxious amount and getting it, do you think that they're just they're saying, you know what? I've made enough money. I've made quite enough. I'm rich. I'm just going to sell it. I'm going to sell it for below asking, actually. I want someone to just have this. I'm going to sell my whole portfolio below asking price because first-time home buyers, they just need it. I'm feeling generous. Do we think that's what's happening here? Let me tell you exactly what's happening. Redfin is utilizing these things called floor plans with their sellers. So let me break this down to the three categories for you into what sellers actually are. There's only three types of sellers. There's somebody who's real, who has a home, who needs to sell it for one way or another. There's someone's died, someone's divorced, I don't like you anymore, we need to move out of here. They got a new job somewhere else, or frankly, maybe they just want to sell. There's that category, real person selling. There's category number two. There's builders that build a home, they get it built up, they use their Tyvek wrap and their contractors they can get for minimum wage to put shingles on a piece of plywood and sell you a home. Now, this is when you see K. Hovnanian, D.R. Horton, Ryan Holmes, Screw Ryan, and all these others selling properties that are getting inspections that are ripping them apart, that are selling at prices that sometimes are even above the median asking in the area, all to what? To make as much profit as they possibly can. And those homes are sitting. Those homes are sitting. Now, number three is what Redfin is counting in this measure that really skews the number. New construction companies also sell what's called a floor plan. What's a floor plan? Well, a floor plan is when a new construction company doesn't have the physical home built yet. They don't have a lot to build it on. They actually aren't even ready to start the build. They're just showing you what it could be. They're just showing you what it could be. These exist all over the MLS, all over Zillow. You can find them all the time. Go to Zillow, type in new construction, and you'll find a bunch of homes that look like AI picture generations, and you're going to get this generated photo of a bathroom that doesn't exist. Pull back that graph up real quick, Sean, for me. In this graph, we are taking all three of these and combining them. In reality, if we only take the first two categories, guess how many homes are on the market in America? 1.08 million, which is actually below the number of buyers at 1.4 million. So if you were to ask me and ask a lot of and I follow some very smart people, some very smart cookies. People got some medulla oblongatas in between their brain. Is that a word? Is a medulla oblongata a real thing in the brain, Sean? I don't even know how to look that up. He said, I don't even know how to look that up. That's one of those where you got to hit audio and you got to say Abdullah oblongata. I'm saying it differently every single time. I don't even know how to search it, but you ever have to do that where you don't know how to spell something and then you do the audio? Yeah. I do that all the time. So they have some brain kicking around between their ears, and what they're saying is what I'm also going to say is this is skewed. This is Redfin and other real estate agents that have perpetuated this, trying to make anything sound good in this absolutely atrocious market. News outlets are looking for some positive spin, especially real estate-focused news outlets, Redfin, are looking for good news. They're looking for something that is beneficial. And if we look at this graph, we do see that there is some correlation between these two lines. If you look at 2015, when there was that gap that happened up there on the far left of the graph, if you look at 2021, where we see that it was inverted and we had way more buyers than we had sellers and we saw prices shoot up, we do have evidence that these graph lines do affect pricing. But pricing pressure is not a crash. Pricing pressure could keep prices stagnant, could keep the market kind of cold, but it's not going to cause some magical housing crash. We're talking about something that in 2008 was caused by a bank failure, was caused by mass unemployment, was caused by a credit crunch and mortgage freeze. Do you know that a lot of major banks in 2008 to 2009 stopped giving out mortgages? You couldn't go buy a house if you wanted to. That's why prices froze. That's why housing crashed. You know the other time housing crashed before 2008? If you're a veteran of the show on episode 11, by the way, thank you so much. And every single person that is listening on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, we just hit over 10,000 total views and downloads across platforms. Incredible. You'll know, I've said it before, we are walking into a stagnant market, not one that is going to crash, because the only time we've seen crashes were 2008 and 1931, the Great Depression. I saw this clip the other day, and it really baffled me to see a Turning Point's Charlie Kirk conference, which, again, was not expecting a lot of truth to be told. And this man, Tucker Carlson, I have been following him ever since he went rogue from Fox and decided to out the fact that he indeed believes he was being fed lies and fed narratives and doesn't want to do that anymore. I think at first people were a little bit, are we still going to trust this guy? But he's been interviewing people and bringing a lot of great information to light. If you haven't watched his Ted Cruz interview, highly suggest watching that Texas senator get ripped apart on his affiliation with AIPAC and Israel. But this point right here went viral on a lot of different pages. I pulled one where I found the exact clip. I want you to hear his points around the housing market. He does say he doesn't know what the GDP is. I think he's being a little facetious. He knows it's gross domestic product. But let's listen to what Tucker has to say about the housing market real quick.
Point, the basic economics really matter. And they matter because, not that it's bad that rich people are getting richer, it's bad that everyone else is getting poorer. And it's especially bad that young people can't afford homes. Let me just put a very precise point on this. If you want a measure of how your economy is doing, I personally favor eliminating GDP as a measure. I don't even know what that is. It's clearly not relevant. They tell me Japan has a stagnant GDP. Have you been to Tokyo? It's the single most radicalizing experience you'll ever have because it's just so nice. You lost the war? Really? Can we lose a war and wind up like this? GDP. No. I don't know what even that is. The total economic activity. Oh, no. My measure is really simple. I got a bunch of kids. Can they afford houses with full-time jobs at like 27, 28? And the answer is no way. And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt. And I just think that's a total disaster. That's a complete disaster. Why? Two reasons. One, if people don't own things, they don't feel ownership of the country they're in. And the country gets super volatile.
Pause right there. That fact alone should stand as the best point that Tucker may have ever made around housing. When people own, they feel more pride in their area. This is exactly, by the way, how towns clean up that ghetto street or that area that's just overrun with crime. They get in and they start refabbing homes and selling them at rates that the people can afford, and they sell them instead of rent them. And the ownership of that street, all the people owning their homes and their lawns and their sidewalks, they now take pride in that area not being riddled with crime, not being this area no one wants to go to. Why? Because now they own something that could go up in value. How? Location. They got to make the location better. This is exactly why people in HOAs are always on you about your weeds. Like, get the weeds out of there. Why? Because the HOA's there to help increase the values of the area. Yes, they're annoying. Yes, they overdo it. And yes, there should be some regulations put into HOAs. But regardless of all, that's a whole different conversation. Ownership breeds pride in the area. Let's keep playing that clip.
Because people feel like they've got nothing to lose. When you have a lawn, trust me, you're thinking long term. Second, it's really hard to have a family without a house. It is. It's like super fun to live in an apartment if, there's like a bar downstairs, you're in a cool neighborhood. I'm in East Village, it's so cool. Try to have 3 kids. You're not going to have 3 kids there. You can't. Nobody wants to raise their kids in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to raise their kids in an apartment. People do it because they have to. Nobody wants to. People want a little house, not some McMansion, just a little normal house. That is the actual American dream. And that is what is totally unattainable for young people. And so the only young people in general that you will ever meet who have houses are young people whose parents help them. And God bless their parents. That's a perfectly great thing to do for your kids. But most people's parents can't afford to do that because they're already in debt from their pointless college degree.
Quick pause. So 44%, and it's probably a growing number, if not a higher number than this, but confirmed 44% of first-time homebuyers got gifts from their family. So that is absolutely a factual statement.
That is a national emergency. One of the reasons it's happening is because normal people with normal jobs no longer believe they can win in this system and that all the money is going to the worst people. And no one even stops to ask What the hell is going on? What I'm saying is that our leadership class should say something about it and should assign a moral value to it. And if you're getting rich by loaning money to people at incredibly high interest rates, that's something you're going to have to talk to God about. That is not good. That is not virtuous. That's disgusting. And the fact that nobody feels free to say that, nobody feels like you can just say like 30% on a credit card? Why is anybody paying a credit card bill? You know, because they always say, like, if the very rich, if you borrow enough from a bank, you're kind of in charge of the bank because they need you to pay them back, so they're totally happy to negotiate terms with you. But if you borrow a little bit from the bank, they'll just take your house away. So what if people got together and just decided, wait a second, 30% interest is a lot, especially since they're pushing credit cards on kids like crack.
And that's where it cuts off. There's a part 2 we won't listen to. But that to me was one of the first times seeing somebody who's classified in kind of like the elite-ish legacy media leaders that's starting to talk about this. Of course, there's so much to talk about. We got Diddy. We got Epstein. We have wars. We're funding weapons. By the way, we just funded Ukraine's side of the war. Putin ignored Donald Trump, went in, fired on Ukraine, and now we're giving weapons back to Ukraine. We said we weren't going to do that, said that war was going to be done day one. We got Benjamin Netanyahu, I didn't pull up the clip, bombing Damascus a day after Trump said not to. So we have absolutely zero foreign policy control. We have no control over what's going on with these wars, even though we keep saying that we do. One person keeps saying that we do. We have control over these leaders. They'll do what we say. Has nothing to do with my prior connections or anything like that, but they'll do what we say, right? Right? No, they don't. And we keep funneling money outside of our country when we're not funneling money into the citizens of our own country that need it most. We're providing tax breaks, we're providing education, we're providing housing, we're providing medical care, we're providing insurance to other countries' citizens. Meanwhile, our own country is going through an affordability crisis, a housing crisis, and we're leaning back into more of the same with an inflation crisis, a cost of living increasing crisis. And again, we aren't focusing on it. We just aren't focusing on it. What's the next one we got pulled up, Sean? So this is a great graphic, great little infographic that shows, in my opinion, a slightly watered down version of what it would cost to be a young adult today. So this is the cost of moving out of your parents' home in 2025. Who posted this? Culture Parents. Do we have a source on here, Sean, on the picture maybe? A little closer to the bottom. This is Culture Cut Parents. Where's our source here? Based on median pre-tax monthly income. Source: KFF, CNBC, Zillow, Education Data, U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, NerdWallet, Ramsey. Maybe it isn't watered down. Let's look up. So this is based on if you're 25 to 34 years old, moving out of your parents, you have student loan debt of $536. You have rent of $2,049. You have car, $1,098, which I did look up is including car insurance, which we just saw went up in the latest June inflation report, repairs, tire rotations, gas, and of course the car payment, which according to Experian, the median payment of a used car off the lot is $512. So for all the boomers saying, get a cheap car, get 11, get off the lot, you don't need to drive a Lamborghini. That is a normal car. That's a very normal car. $309 for groceries. I guess if you live on your own, because if you got a kid, I can tell you right now, it looks a lot like the car number. And then health insurance at $114, cell phone at $144, internet at $76, money left over $549. This is assuming somebody makes take home $4,875, which if you're curious what that take home number means that they're actually making per year, it means that they're making somewhere in like the 65, that'd be more, it'd be 75 to 80 grand range after tax. So they're making 80 grand and they're only able to rent and barely get by. And these are the expenses by themselves. So we wonder, why aren't people getting married? Why aren't people having kids? Why aren't people moving out of their parents' house? This. Next slide. So we have a lot of clips that we're going to walk through here. So keep your ears pierced as we talk deeply into them. And if you're watching on YouTube or on the video section of Spotify, which I did hear you can do, you get to see this clip of this host who's kind of breaking down to me what the misconception about inflation is. The misconception is that when we get these 2.9, 4.0, 1.3, like, okay, is that good or bad? It's going up. Prices of everything continue to go up. And what this is going to show you is that that number is only showing you the last 12 months. It's not really actually showing you the full picture. Let's play the clip.
It's the cost of living crisis. Suddenly we went up from prices being around there to prices being there. And you don't really see that in this data, okay? Because inflation is really just measuring the difference between that and that. And if you look at those two lines, you're talking about a 2.3% change. That's the number we're talking about today. But for a lot of people, it's not about that. It's about the difference between this and that. And when you look at the difference between this and that, that's 20%. And I think that's the dichotomy here between these inflation numbers where it looks normal and this, which is really not normal at all. That's the cost of living.
Now, let's pause this and keep it up, though, because I want to be clear about where this is coming from. This was from BBC, and this is actually talking about England and their economy. But I loved the top comment because the top comment was clearly an American who, oh, no, keep going up. It's right there. It's right there. Mr. What was that? Ian Lee Robinson. What's up, Ian? Ian Lee Robinson. Got him. Says, a great point, statistically backed, by the way. Look these numbers up yourself. $1.85 to $3.65 per gallon is how much of a percentage change? Again, kind of a worldwide thing. But then listen to the next three. $3.99 for eggs to $7.99 is how much of a percentage change? It's a little down from there, but regardless. The next one, $177K home to a $385K home is how much of a percentage change? And $2 for milk to now $6.99 for milk. I did confirm that was actually $6.23 for milk is how much of a percentage change. We can go down the line. Look at utility bills. Look at home insurance. You look at clothing. You look at childcare. Childcare used to be $600 a child. Now it's $1,200 a child. How much of a percentage change is that? The 20% number is actually in America, technically, according to the Federal Reserve, 32%. But 32% still is watering it down. Perfect example, shelter. Can we pull back up that Yahoo Finance graph real quick? On the Yahoo Finance graph, we see shelter's gone up. But do you know how we measure shelter? The bar graph real quick. Yeah, perfect. So right on the top, we see housing at 4.0. Do you know how they measure housing? They measure housing by calling folks and saying, hello, we are the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. We want to know, how much could you rent your home for, Mr. Boomer? And then Mr. Boomer says, oh, this old thing? Man, I bought this thing for 40 grand and a pile of potatoes back in the day. Oh, I think I could rent it for like 3 grand a month. Okay, yeah, what makes you think that? Absolutely nothing. Okay, perfect. And then they'll write it down. They make this call 50,000 times a month to different households and talk with people who aren't currently working 2 jobs or working a double shift or dealing with the 3 kids that are just doing whatever the heck they want. One's crying, one's crawling up the stairs, one's drawing on the walls. You know, they're cooking, they're getting things ready. And also husband, wife still at work because they're having to work that many hours. And by the way, the home that they're calling, they're probably talking to people that are already renters. So they get to the phone and what are they going to say? Nothing. They're not going to answer the phone. The normal everyday young American who's working 2, 3, 4 jobs isn't even answering the phone. So we're only talking to boomers. We're only talking to people that own their home, have the wherewithal, the time and the space to be able to take a voluntary survey. And then, by the way, have to be honest about it. Have to be real about it. I talk to people about real estate for a living. Do you know how many people think their home is worth more than what it actually is, or even less than what it actually is? Happens all the time. I've walked into plenty of homes that are worth $450K. We could sell it today. Easy, done. And they're like, I could sell for $375. I'm like, no, actually, you could sell for $450. And they're elated. They're like, wow, that's incredible. And just as many people that think that their $450 home will sell for $550. And I have to bring them back down to earth. The point is they don't know. They go on Zillow and look at the Zestimate. They look at the home down the road that's 16 times better than theirs, and they compare theirs to theirs. It's not a system that's actually tracking shelter costs. Again, they track shelters going up over 30%, and that might sound like an egregious number. It should sound like an egregious number over 5 years because it's 6% on average a year. But in reality, a $200,000 home is now $385,000, and that's almost a 95% increase. So where they're getting their numbers is very important because they're not looking at median home sale data. They're not looking at Zillow, Redfin, or the MLS. They're talking to boomers. Let's get to the next clip. Why don't we? So, this actually isn't a clip. This is a graph for those expecting to hear something that shows that inflationary data, and this is for America. So the last one, Britain. This was brought to us by the University of Michigan Surveys of Consumers. Again, you'll see that keyword surveys. These surveys are telling us what our CPI data is, and that's why a lot of people get a little up in arms around, is it actually legit? Is it actually real? And if you look at the dotted line, you'll see what the consumer perceived inflation is versus the real CPI 12-month change. And you'll see typically that dotted line runs kind of in the middle of the tops and bottoms if you look from 2015 on up to 2020. But then once we exit 2022, the perceived is much higher, where the perceived currently sits at 6.5, where we only are just above 3. So you can see that the consumer, the regular everyday person, doesn't honestly believe what the CPI index is telling us. Let's go on to the next one real quick. Let's see what we got real quick. We got median home sale data. I think I'm going to skip over this one. Let's go on to the next one. So this is Mrs. Oprah Winfrey. This is a very quick clip, but this is if you're wondering why young people can't afford homes and where the money is. I think this is a very quick little clip. Gets you an idea.
Is this generation having so many financial stresses?
Because you got all the money, Oprah. You and your billionaire friends have all the money.
Why is this
Why does this generation have so many financial struggles? It's because the billionaires have the money, right, Sean? Yes. Who's your favorite billionaire, Sean? None. There isn't one billionaire out there where you're like, I could grab a coffee with that guy and I think we'd get a good conversation going? Absolutely not. Not a single one. Female? No. I wonder what the difference between male and female billionaires are. I'm assuming it's like 90% are male, maybe 95%, all white, and probably ranging from some form of Christian denomination. I don't know anything. Now, let's get into Miss Caroline Levitt. I have gotten to listen to this woman speak more than my own wife on some weeks because she be talking a lot of words, and she is probably, in my opinion, she's the ultimate gatekeeper. If you were to go into, like, I used to do this all the time. I worked for 1 whole month in insurance. Personal insurance. It was my first sales job. I was really, really bad at it. And I remember that I had to walk into offices and basically get past the gatekeeper to talk to the boss. The gatekeeper was the front desk person. And I would walk in. And if I said, hi, I want to sell your boss insurance, they'd be like, no, leave. Or schedule a call, or he's busy right now. My job was to basically get past he or her to get to the boss. Carolyn Levitt is the front desk lady. She's the one who gets asked all the questions, gets all the heat for what Trump and all of the administration are either covering up, mishandling, or supposedly mishandling, and her job is to defend it all. So it's a tough job. But in this clip 2 weeks ago, she's talking about specifically Jerome Powell and rates. Rates are very, 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 very controversial. We've talked about this many times. We hit up the show and started with the fact that Jerome is under a lot of smoke and fire right now around rates. This was a message that was sent from Trump to Jerome, and this is Ms. Levitt detailing us exactly what that message was.
And the one problem that remains is high interest rates for the American people. The American people want to borrow money cheaply, and they should be able to do that. But unfortunately, we have interest rates that are still too high. So the president sent this note to the Fed chair today. And if you look at this chart, this is a chart of all of the interest rates of many countries throughout the world. At the top is Switzerland. They're only paying a quarter for interest rates. Cambodia, Japan, Denmark, Thailand, Botswana, Barbados, Taiwan, Bulgaria, Cuba, Sweden, Morocco, Cabo Verde, South Korea, Algeria, Canada, Albania, Libya, Malaysia, China, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Czechia, Bolivia, Australia, Costa Rica, the Bahamas, Kuwait, Papua New Guinea, Bosnia, United Kingdom, and the UAE are all paying lower interest rates than the United States of America, which has one of the hottest and strongest economies in the world. The president sent this note to the Fed chair. It says, Jerome, you are as usual too late. You have cost the USA a fortune and continue to do so. You should lower the rate by a lot. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being lost, and there is no inflation. Your
Pause
president-
it. Let's get to the next one real quick because I got the actual graphic for you so we can look at it. Oh, I thought I did. Can we find the graphic of Carolyn Levitt's board? It should be right there. Perfect. Let's zoom in a little bit to the top there if we could, where we see the countries in the world that have the lowest rates. So we see Switzerland, Cambodia, Japan, Denmark. Every time I hear that clip, by the way, Sean, this might be outdating you, and I'm sorry. Have you ever seen that Looney Tunes clip where he's naming all the countries? It's clever. It's funny. It sticks in my head. It's been in my head for like 20 years. But that's what I thought of when hearing that. Let's just talk about the countries, Freudian slip, the countries that were mentioned there and the interest rates that they offer at their Fed level. So let's go ahead and not mention the fact that a lot of these countries are third world, if not close to third world. But if we were to bring up the main countries, Australia, which actually financially are doing quite similarly to us, they're running very hot and their rates are only slightly below ours. We talk about the United Kingdom, rates are very similar to ours. But if we go into China, Japan, they're completely different economies than ours. They're run mainly, China, by a government-business relationship, so completely different government economic structure. We look at places like Japan, who've actually been poor, like they've been bad economically. They've run in a deflationary pattern for a while. England run in a deflationary pattern for a bit. These are countries that are making moves based off their own country's moves and needs. If their country needs more money because they're deflationary, they're lowering rates. And if we look at the very top one, I was very curious. Why is Switzerland's rate so low? Well, it's because that's where the main central bank operates. It could have nothing to do with that, right? Could have nothing to do with the fact that the Bank of International Settlements, which is the central bank for all central banks for the cartel to run, for the central banks to run, is at 0.25. That's really weird. Why would we make the number one central bank in the world a really low rate? And why can't we be like them? Well, because we keep inflating our dollar. Out of all of these countries, let's look at the entire list. I want you to point out the country that is the world's reserve currency. Which one of the countries above us of the 34 are a world reserve currency? Let's look. Japan, Denmark, Algeria. Oh, it's none of them. Oh, it's the United States dollar that's the world reserve currency at 60%. So you would think maybe we have to do things slightly differently than these other countries that aren't 60% of the world's reserve currency or potential third world currencies. Or also, most of these people are also either leaning socialist directions, even communist directions, and we can't have any of that. No socialism in our country. So we can't compare eggs to doorknobs. These are completely different things. It's not apples to oranges. It's apples to giraffe necks. They're not the same at all. They're completely different infrastructures. They're completely different economies. And to say that we should be lowering rates just because other countries do it is just like when your mom said, if someone were to jump off a bridge, would you follow them? It's not a valid question. Of course I'm going to follow them because this country stinks. But regardless, this is not the same debate. And this was sent to Jerome Powell. We know now that also there was this list or letter that he's dangling saying, I'm going to fire you. But he can't. He can't, and it would send rates skyrocketing because it would destroy trust in other countries and other investors that are holding our debt in the form of bonds, which affect our 10-year treasury yield, which affect 30-year mortgage rates dramatically. It's not the same argument, and I can't stand that piece right there where we're saying, oh, these 35 other countries. No, we can't base our economic standing on the economic standing of other countries. Let's get to the next one. Next one we have, we're getting into our memes. We're to our memes? That's all we have left, our memes? Oh, man. We really ran through that. By the way, this is the first time without a one-man show operating. We have Sean back there. Let's spam the chat real quick. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean, for making this a much more fluid podcast without me having to maneuver a mouse and a keyboard. But we do have some memes that I've seen in the past few weeks that I think you should see too. So let's go ahead and watch them. Pause. Anybody who's watching and not seeing the physical video, I just hear you giggling back there. You're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, like, yo, what is this meme? This is a meme. Let's refresh it and back it up real quick. This is a meme. Oh. This is a meme of who's the creator? I want to shout out the creator real quick. Oh God, what? How do you say that? She sees the mean shirts. Thank you, sees the mean shirts. 40,000 followers. Maybe he'll get more because he deserves these. This is funny. This is a meme. It starts with him punching. Those are the moan sounds you hear. Somebody on the ground that's labeled as the Palestinians. Let's continue.
You can take over now.
Perfect. I'll handle it from here.
Could you believe what Trump is doing to the Palestinians? Are you happy now? Are you happy that you didn't vote for us? Because this is your fault.
This is your fault. You voted for this. I cracked up because isn't that all issues? Obviously, the genocide that's unfolding being given bipartisan support, that the murder, warmongering focused Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, gets bipartisan support, standing ovations when he enters the floor, the House floor. He has nominations for Nobel Peace Prizes to our president, you know, that guy. The fact that we have bipartisan support for him, the fact that everything economically is the last administration's fault. Everything being expensive is the last administration's fault. It's just the same script over and over and over and over. It's like pulling out the shampoo bottle and it says lather, rinse, repeat, but it just says lather, rinse, lather, rinse, lather, rinse, lather, rinse, lather, rinse, lather, rinse, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. This is all that's been happening since Reagan, by the way. All that's been happening since Reagan. Oh, all these issues we're seeing right now, that's not me. I'm here to fix them. It's the last administration's fault. And then when they don't fix them and they hand it off to the next, that's that administration's problem. We didn't do that. It's the same freaking script. What's our next meme? Oh, it's not even a meme. It's the GOAT, Tim Dillon, comedian. He's like 450 episodes into his podcast. Though he's a comedian, he is pretty freaking smart, as a lot of comedians are, but he's quick as a whip, and I think that this was a funny reaction to Kash Patel. We reacted to some of these on show number 8, where we detailed the Epstein cover-up, but he touches a little bit on Kash Patel's lack there of follow-up on things he said in the past.
Can't find someone better at lying than this? Has this guy practiced?
We're going to give you everything we can, and people have to remember, we're not going to re-victimize women.
What?
We're not going to put that shit back out there. It's not happening, because then he wins. Not doing it. You want to hate me for it? Fine. Again,
Can't you blur the women?
Play out.
What? Hold on. Stop that for a minute. The craziest thing I've ever heard. We just blur the women. Let's just blur the... Why wouldn't you just blur the victim? We have that technology. If Palantir has the technology to identify an aid truck going to Gazan civilians and blow it up, we certainly have the 1997 technology utilized on, A Current Affair or Entertainment Tonight to blur the victim. No? Zillow uses that technology when you're selling a house and the house next to it doesn't want to be sold. We use it there. Let's listen to more of Kash Patel.
You want to hate me for it? Fine. Again, logical play out. If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies,
but there is,
and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
Yes, but that's why everyone's confused. This is my favorite part of this whole thing. He goes, if there are videos of people committing crimes on that island, but hold on. Pam Bondi said there were videos. She's the Attorney General. She goes, there's hundreds of hours of video. That's a quote from Pam. Get the Pam Bondi quote up by the videos. According to your own Attorney General, there are 10,000 hours of videos of that your agency is reviewing. That's according to Pam Bond. That's according to the Attorney General. Wear a collared shirt. You're lying to me in athleisure? This guy, what do they mean if there were video? The Attorney General, 10,000 of them that the FBI is reviewing. All right, keep going. Kash Patel. You know what Kash Patel makes me long for? Vivek. You can't find
Vivek Ramaswamy is who's he referencing there. Yeah, that's That joke about you're lying to me in athleisure is hilarious. Wear a collared shirt if you're going to lie to me. Wear a button up if you're going to tell me falsehoods. Like, don't look comfortable while you're lying is a hilarious line. But Tim and others have covered the fact that, myself included, that there's just lies. Just lots of lies about, it has nothing to do with housing. It has everything to do with billionaires getting what they want, which ultimately does lead back to the housing crisis that we're in. But money and power makes things disappear, right? As we're seeing very clearly. Let's go on to the next clip. What was the next one? Oh, this is a quick one. There was a recent, I used to watch this every year. Haven't watched it in a while, though. The ESPYs. This is ESPN Sports Awards. And the one thing that comes from it that's always good is the host drops a fire monologue on pretty much just a summary of what happened throughout the year in sports. But Shane caught some flack for going a little off script and talking Epstein.
Actually, there was supposed to be an Epstein joke here, but as it got deleted. Must have probably deleted itself, right? Probably never existed, actually. Let's move on as a country and ignore that.
Let's move on as a country and ignore that. Let's move on to the next one. I love Shane. This is a skit around the same exact topic. I didn't have many housing skits that I found. I just put this in a group chat, by the way, throughout the week when I find something that seems to resonate, maybe makes me laugh, maybe is controversial. Who's the creator here? Big Bang Mike. So just out of curiosity, if we do hear some moaning coming from this one, it could be from something else. Big Bang Mike. What? This guy got on Instagram and said, I got to come up with a fire name. They're going to know me when they see it. What are you thinking of? Magic Mike? No, that's too sexual. We need to do that. What about Big Bang Mike? Let's play Big Bang Mike's video.
If you click this pen, it will expose people on the Epstein list. But I have to warn you, if you do... Whoa, you didn't let me explain. If you do, it's also going to expose the Democrats that are on that list. No, you don't understand. Like, if you do, it would also expose, like the Clintons and other prominent Democrats. Whoa, dude. Yeah, look, calm down. Burn them all. Get them all. Like, we've been saying this forever. Like, what don't you understand? Like, look, to be honest, I didn't realize that you were sort of as passionate about this as I was. God, screw them all. So, like, look, I'm gonna take that back now. Like, what? What'd you just do? What are you talking about? Pen. You said the thing about the pen, and then like the exposing of the thing. What are you talking about? There was never a pen, like a pen. Like, I'm more of a mechanical pencil guy myself, but like, what are you on about? You said the thing about the pen. Don't mess with me. Pens, quills. You're so interested in writing equipment all of a sudden, right? Like rollerball, ballpoint, fountain, or gel. I'm more concerned with like graphite. It's a renewable resource, and like we can use graphite more. Like who's even talking about pens? If you.
Just to be clear, if I could speak for the 25 to 35-year-old that is obsessed with the Epstein case, could I offer a thought process that it's not obsession with the Epstein case, but it's the obsession with the lack of justice that's being brought to people that were having sex with children? Could it be the lack of the fact that we're not dragging these people out one by one right in D.C. with cameras in front of their face, with a crowd of people berating and insulting them and embarrassing them for what they have done as they walk toward the nooses? That's what people want. It's not about just this one guy who may or may have not found somehow in a solitary confinement cell, which, by the way, spent a year working as a prison officer, you're not allowed to have anything in that cell that could potentially off yourself. Why? Because people being held in long-term solitary confinement typically like to do that. I'll give you a story of a doctor in Delaware. 2014, he was convicted on over 150 charges of child pedophilia, working as a pediatrician. I got to oversee his cell. There was a inmate who walked up to me while working that cell. I had just gotten started, just about like 3 months ago. And I remember an inmate walking over to the glass in this high-level prison compound area. This was compound number 23, and it's where the worst of the worst were kept, and there were 2 cells that were for solitary confinement. The doctor was in one of them. The other was empty. This inmate, not the doctor, walks up to me, 6'6", looked jacked, looked like he'd been bench pressing in every rec opportunity he got for the last 20 years. He walked right up to me and through the glass said, "Open his cell." "Oh, open it up." "Oh, while I'm out here on rec, open up the doctor's cell. I'm going to take care of him." And I quote, he said, "I'm going to take care of him." And I shook my head, no, I'm not going to do that. And I remember verbatim what he said, and I cannot lie to you. I will not lie to you. I don't work there anymore. I probably wouldn't have said this if I was still working there. He said, "You're new. You've never been here. You don't know how the board works. Make a mistake." I thought about it. Just this much. I thought about it. Why did I think about that, though? Why did this guy want this guy's cell open? There's plenty of prisoners in here. There's plenty of people to fight. This guy looked like he could fight anybody he wanted to and win. Big guy. You know what I could compare him to? If you've ever watched the Green Mile, Mr. John Coffey, big man right there. That's who this guy looked like. Let me take care of him. Make a mistake. That is exactly who walked up to the glass. That is who it was. Gigantic man that probably, like Mr. Coffey, wanted to oust this child-obsessed, despicable waste of life that ruined and victimized hundreds of kids, their families, trauma that will never be resolved, cases that probably will never even be known. The 150 plus that were brought are only what they knew. He was later sent to Nevada. We traded him. We got two first-round draft picks and some cash compensation in exchange for him leaving that prison because they couldn't keep him safe. Because people wanted to hurt him. Why? Because he hurt hundreds of children. Now, when billionaires do it, and it's covered up, we're told we shouldn't care. Meanwhile, I think every single one of us want exactly what that inmate, human, he murdered 3 people, so, I mean, he should stay in jail, but he's still a human, wanted. He wanted justice. He wanted to see that person who caused so much pain to the most innocent people that could possibly walk this earth, and he wanted to give that person just a fraction of what he believed that person deserved. And I think that's what we want. We want the people like the Prince Andrews and the Bill Gates and the Martin Levys and the CEOs of JP Morgan who facilitated the transactions for Mr. Epstein. And we want answers as to why the Miss Maxwell is still sitting in 20 years worth of a sentence for racketeering and operating a child sex ring for the wealthy. We want to know. We want to know. And we want to know so that we can drag them out one by one into public and beat them senselessly until they can no longer do it anymore. I think that's what a lot of people want. And at the very, 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 very least, you could give them the list and at least acknowledge publicly who it was. And I think that's the fraction of what people want, and you're not even giving them that. And that is causing the uproar from both sides. Sean, can we pull up real quick? And if you can't find it, we'll end on this, by the way, because I said I wasn't going to talk too much on Epstein, but guess what's on the TV behind me? The fact that he's his best friend. So let's bring up this one last post. It was his Truth Social post, the initial one. You could probably look up him getting ratioed because it's a picture that shows the initial post saying we don't need to talk about this, and you can very clearly see that the comments outweighed the likes. If you're unfamiliar with being ratioed, which I'm not sure you're not familiar with, if you're not 60, it's when somebody leaves a comment on your page. Happens to me all the time. This is, by the way, my favorite thing in social media, when someone gives me a quippy comment back like, oh, you're wrong because of X, Y, and Z, and then, I can reply with da-da-da-da, and then my comment gets more likes. That's winning the ratio battle. You got ratioed, bud. That's one of my favorite things in social media to do, by the way. It gives me joy to win a good comment battle. But on this post, which many people have already seen. If you're not seeing my screen, this is the initial post that Donald Trump put out on his website, Truth Social, who I'm just going to go out and lay a little groundwork of a guess that the social media platform owned by Donald J. Trump is predominantly people who support Donald J. Trump. The majority of the users are MAGA. So when he put out this post, it started with what's going on, boys, and in some cases gals. You're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. He talks about Epstein. It's a hoax. Let Pam Bondi do her job. We're in the hottest market ever. Stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein, someone that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. He got ratioed. Let's look at the likes. It's got 44,000 likes. How many comments does it have? Oh, it doesn't show the comments. This doesn't show the comments. There were more comments than there were likes. If we hit comments, can we see some of the comments? Or do we have to have a profile? Next week, we're going to come fully prepared with a free CNNBC article account so that we can read those. And we're going to get a Truth Social account. I'm going to be Super Patriot 9/11. We're pulling it up right now. We got it. We're pulling it up right now. Got it. So it had 36,000 replies, of which 99% were anti what this post was about, and only 10,000, what is it called, reposts? Retruths? Retruths. According to the public engagement data archived from Truth Social, the post has gained more than 36,000 replies compared to only 11,000 retruths, the platform's term for shares, and only 32,000 likes. So 32,000 likes to 36,000 replies. That is getting ratioed, ladies and gentlemen. More people are taking time to reply and leave a comment than they are to double tap it. Think of your own social media scrolling. How much effort does it take to leave a comment on a video versus just double tapping it and moving on for your support? It takes a lot more. So Donald Trump's own people, MAGA, are waking up to the fact that we are covering up an economy that is white hot with debt. We are covering up, quote unquote, fraud from the Federal Reserve just to work our own right-hand man in that's going to lower rates. He wants a low-interest guy. He's been quoted that many times. I want a low-interest guy. And a low-interest guy, Scott Bessent, who's, I don't know if he's low-interest. He might be an interesting person. But he wants to come in and lower rates. He said he's going to do Trump's bidding. So the Federal Reserve drama will continue to unfold. The Epstein drama will continue to unfold. And we're going to continue to unfold it as it happens, reacting to what's going on from the normal everyday American standpoint. This has been show number 11 and the first show with our boy Sean. Shout out again to Sean. If you didn't do it the first time, don't ratio us. Leave a comment spamming, thank you, Sean. And I'm going to go ahead and pray us out with this big, beautiful blue book in my hand. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you for this opportunity to speak across the world, the country, the town, the city, wherever we're talking to you from. The fact that we have this technology to do it is an amazing blessing. Thank you so much for us being able to look clearly in the eyes of the evil that walks through this world. And thank you so much for giving us a route out of it, a reason to push against it, and a figure, a role model featured in 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as to how to address it. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for the peace that surpasses all understanding that can touch every single one person that hears the sound of my voice. And I am so grateful for you giving us this opportunity to speak with one another. I pray for the future of this country, that it can be found on economic justice, foundational justice, and justice for the victims that are undergoing any form of crime, whether it be done by the poorest or the most wealthy. And we pray for continued growth. In your name we pray, in the matchless and majestic name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And hey, if you find the Epstein list, send it to me because apparently no one has it. So just send it to me if you got it.